What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Now, usually when I kickstart off one of these news rounds, I begin by stating that we are in for an absolute stacked discussion. Well, for this video, I think that would seriously be an understatement because we are currently in the middle of San Diego Comic-Con and anybody who is packing the Transformers license is absolutely bringing the heat. Hasbro more so than any of them, as they finally teased a pretty devastating project that we can expect to see in 2025, and let's just say prepare for extermination when it does come down to your bank balance. So first of all, let's get stuck into some of the newly shown products by Yolopark, and yet again guys, they are absolutely annihilating the non-transforming market because first up we have images of their upcoming AMK Pro Transformers The Last Knight Optimus Prime. Now, considering that this bad boy is set to retail for roughly $50, I think he appears to be a near masterpiece, and what a fantastic, more affordable alternative to the super high-end 3.0 DLX version. This guy, honestly, when it does come down to paint and detail, appears to be a near one-to-one match to what we did see from that Transformers 5 movie, and to be fair, I think it is epic that they are finally branching into some of those Transformers 5 designs, because when it does come down to an actual transforming figure, these are by far some of the hardest to execute. This guy will be packing all of the same points of articulation that we have so far seen from some of their regular Rise of the Beast model kits, and he will also be stacked when it does come down to accessories, so this is an instant day one cop, and I really cannot wait for them to finally drop the pre-orders for this guy. I do believe he's been teased now for roughly one whole year, and it is pretty sick to finally see him fully colorized, and if the final product looks half as good as this guy, then I definitely think he has the potential to be by far one of the best live action movie figures that Yolopark have so far produced. But with that said, their second drop is an easy contender, as we finally also have a fully painted prototype of their Rise of the Beasts Mirage. Now, much like the Transformers 5 Optimus Prime, this is a fantastic design to approach when it does come down to a non-transforming Transformer. Mirage definitely had a super complex design, so much so that when it did come round to his Transforming Studio Series version, the robot mode was incredibly cluttered, which was a shame because he was easily one of the standout characters from the movie. So yet again guys, alongside Optimus Prime, another instant pickup, and at the price point of roughly around $50, this is going to absolutely annihilate any of the previous versions of this guy that we've so far seen. But live action movie figures weren't the only characters that they were showing off, because the upcoming Transformers 1 animated movie is becoming closer and closer by the day, so it is pretty sweet to see that Yolopark will be approaching the 4 main characters. So to begin with, we finally have a proper version of Elita 1. Unfortunately, when it does come round to Hasbro's lineup, she has absolutely been shafted. We haven't even seen a mainline deluxe of this baddie, despite her being featured in pretty much all of the promotional material. Now, they will be producing 2 versions of each character, and to be fair, I think both look just as good as each other. I'm thinking that considering that it is said to be that these will be slightly smaller in scale, I'm really hoping that they also pair quite nicely against some of the Studio Series versions, especially when it does come down to that cogless version, because considering that she will not transform in the movie and neither will this figure, this definitely does make her probably one of the most accurate versions that we are going to get. And the same can also be said as we spin around to Bumblebee / B127, also known as Badassatron. Now, to be fair, I actually think he looks to be the best out of the 4, especially his upgraded form. This guy is going to be stacked when it comes down to accessories, and the paint job for an AMK release I think is looking pretty wicked. They also showed off images for their upcoming D16 / Megatron, and he too also looks really well done. Much like Elita 1, unfortunately, when it does come down to the Transformers 1 mainline, we haven't as of yet seen a deluxe class release for this bad boy, which is unfortunate considering that it is expected that he will turn into the big bad of the movie, but both of these look awesome, and to be fair, I actually think I do prefer the cogless version over Megatron's finalized look. And then last but by no means least, bringing the touch, we have their version of Orion Pax / Optimus Prime. So I do believe this is the first ever full-blown version of Orion Pax that we've so far seen, considering that when it does come down to both mainline and Studio Series, both of them appear to have been based on his final Optimus Prime look. So much like Elita 1, this is looking to be by far the most accurate version of Orion Pax that we're going to see, and I do think it's pretty sweet how he will include the T-Cog, which is the mechanism that will give him the ability to actually transform in the movie. And when it does come down to the final Optimus Prime look, I thought that it was pretty sweet how he will finally be sporting an actual Ion Blaster. Unfortunately, any of the versions that we've so far seen for this guy have merely included the Energon Axe, which whilst is a really cool accessory, I would argue that the Ion Blaster is way more iconic to the original G1 show, so definitely cannot wait to pick all of these up. And unlike some of their previous AMK products, when it does come down to scale, these may actually make for some pretty awesome stand-ins for some Studio Series counterparts. Transporting our way onto the other side of the planet, Takara Tomy 2 are having an absolute blast in dropping a set of their own reveals, although to be fair, most of these right now are repaints. So, up first we finally have some proper images of their upcoming Armata Universe Super Starscream, which is pretty much the regular Hasbro version, just repainted into Thundercracker colours. This looks wicked, the only downside would be that he will be an import, so unfortunately we'll be packing a very hefty price tag, and it is a shame that considering all of the pointless repaints that we do see in the main line, Hasbro themselves couldn't find a way to get this guy in there at a way more affordable price point, and the same can also be said as we spin around to the next repaint, which will be a Rise of the Beast version of Nemesis Prime. Now, all of these Nemesis Prime recolors absolutely slap, and I think more so when it does come down to this Transformers 7 Optimus Prime. He looks killer! The only downside once again would be that much like Super Starscream, he will not be a part of the main line and unfortunately will only be available in a specific part of the world, meaning that if you do want to track this guy down, not only will it be virtually impossible, but you will definitely have to fork out quite a hefty price tag for this absolute beast. And speaking of price point, Hasbro is currently hosting their Fan Expo, where they will be having a Transformers 1 Studio Series Optimus Prime exclusive, which I do believe is said to retail for roughly $400. Now, this is exactly the same when it does come down to molding to the regular Transformers 1 Optimus Prime. The only difference will be is that he will be sporting a way more battle damaged look, which to be fair does look kind of awesome, but I'm honestly not sure if it's $400 awesome. You know, seriously, if you were to just whack out the paintbrushes and some black paint, you would be able to pull off a very similar look to this guy. But easily one of the best reveals to come from Hasbro's Fan Expo would be Takara Tomy's upcoming mainline exclusive Leader Class Transformers 1 Optimus Prime. Now, Takara Tomy is no stranger to kind of bringing back old school leader classes when it does come round to the movie season. We saw Ultimate Optimus Primal last year, which was an absolute banger, so it is pretty sweet to see them once again continuing on that trend, and this Optimus Prime does appear to look even better than the actual Studio Series version. The robot mode looks wicked, but the truck mode honestly I think is the biggest improvement, as we finally have a Transformers 1 Optimus Prime which doesn't just have the forearms nor the fists hanging off to the side. This is wicked, this will be an easy pickup for myself, and I can imagine quite a few other collectors as well. I'm just hoping that unlike some of those other Takara Tomy items, this one is going to be way easier to track down, and considering the Ultimate Optimus Primal I do believe was available on Pulse, I'm also hoping that the same treatment goes for this Optimus Prime. Which, speaking of Pulse, we finally saw the official reveal for the long-awaited Dino King Combiner, which is a heavy retool of the Legacy Evolution Volcanicus. Now, to be fair, I think this does look pretty decent. The individual modes, I'm going to be honest guys, I won't even attempt to pronounce their names, as to myself it would be near impossible. But I will say the Combine mode definitely does look promising. It is sweet to see them finally include some proper feet for this Combiner, although to be fair guys, stacked up against what we saw from the DNA design upgrade, these really do look kind of pathetic. I will say though that the brand new accessories are a more than welcome addition, especially that pretty giant axe that this guy will be able to use in order to wipe out his opponents. Now, to be honest, I'm not quite sure if this is one that I am going to track down. It really does just depend on its availability. You know, most of the individual components, as we expected, are very slight retools of their original counterparts, and to be fair, the color scheme is definitely doing a lot of the heavy lifting. But I would love to get your guys' thoughts down below. What do you guys think of this brand new Dino King? And he wasn't the only beast that Hasbro dropped as part of their San Diego Comic-Con lineup, because we have to discuss Triple T, which is their next Transformers and G.I. Joe crossover. I was honestly really surprised to see them use Cup as the robot mode, and do you know what guys, this is looking to be by far the best out of the bunch. I think it's pretty sweet how they are finally utilising some of those vehicle mode components and mostly integrating them into the design, and the Triple T itself, as to be expected, is a near spot-on match to the original retro version. So if you like Transformers and you like G.I. Joe, then this may just be the crossover to check out. But at least for myself, I'm going to be waiting on that price point, because I didn't even bother reviewing Soundwave, considering that he did retail for roughly £110. I did pick him up, although to be honest guys, was absolutely horrified by the quality. The robot mode was still incredibly kibble-tastic, and the transformation, to be fair, I expect better from those dollar store knockoffs. So I'm hoping that this guy is slightly better in comparison to their previous release. I guess only time will tell. And speaking of time, we finally saw the official reveal for the upcoming Studio Series Core Class Bumblebee movie Starscream. This guy, I believe, was originally teased by Takara Tomy months ago, so it is wicked to finally see Hasbro acknowledging this guy, and it does appear to be a very strong Core Class release. They've taken arguably one of the more complex Cybertronian designs and have shrunken it down to that Core Class scale point. Now, sticking with the Bumblebee movie subline, we also saw the official reveal for their version of Frenzy. I think he looks even better than Rumble, and now that we have the dynamic duo complete, I really hope that they now approach the likes of a concept art version of Laserbeak, because unfortunately when it does come down to the Studio Series treatment, that guy has definitely had a rough time. And speaking of rough times, the next entry, to be honest guys, actually surprised me, as we are going to be getting a Studio Series Deluxe Class Gamer Edition Reactivate Bumblebee. The video game right now is still in development hell, and we are roughly 8 months into the year already, and we unfortunately have had no updates at all. To be honest, I do think this release overall is a little crafty, because it really wasn't that long ago that we did see this guy released as part of a 2-pack, and now that we are seeing the likes of Bumblebee, it will only be a matter of time before we also see an individual release of the Reactivate Optimus Prime, which was by far the best figure out of the bunch, and considering that it did come packaged with Soundwave, also warranted a pretty hefty price tag. So, do you know what? I really think they should have just released these guys individually to begin with, instead of rushing out to cash in on a video game that may not ever see the light of day. But the one reveal that I was absolutely over the moon to see would be the Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Transformers 1 Megatron. Now, much like their version of Optimus Prime, not only does this surprisingly look incredibly accurate for a first pass at this design, but it does look pretty killer. This Megatron is going to include not one but 2 arm cannons, which, judging by the most recent Wicked trailer, will be something that we do see him sport in the movie. I will say though that the design has legs for days, although kind of matching this up to the actual CG design, I do believe that's just kind of the design aesthetic that they are going for when it does come down to this upcoming animated movie. This will create for an awesome companion piece alongside Optimus Prime. The only downside for myself would be kind of the tank turret hanging off the back. I'm really hoping that you can remove those bad boys to create for a slightly more cleaner silhouette, which, speaking of, the tank mode again looks very close to what we have actually seen in the trailer. It's a wicked design, one that I really cannot wait to finally see on the big screen, and considering that we now have both Optimus Prime and Megatron, I'm really hoping that when it does come down to the next wave, maybe we can finally see full-blown transforming versions of both Bumblebee and Elita 1. But Megatron, I wouldn't even say was the icing on the cake when it came down to the Studio Series reveals, because the next entry may just save the Gamer Edition entirely. We finally saw the official reveal for the Voyager class version of Ratchet. Now, to be honest, when it does come down to the Voyager class War for Cybertron figures, I think they are by far some of the best that we've had from this subline, and Ratchet alongside Optimus Prime appears to be pucker. The design when it comes down to the robot mode is so much better than I was expecting, and surprisingly he will be kitted out when it comes down to accessories. In addition to including the awesome Cybertronian EMP, will also come packing with a pretty wicked axe accessory. Now, the reason why this guy is undoubtedly one of the highlights from this subline so far is because Hasbro are going to take this, they're going to repaint it and retool it into an Ironhide, so they know that they are going to get their money back on this mold, which is why they have poured so much attention to detail. And you know what? It absolutely shows, because front side to back, this guy is mostly looking solid. And that pretty much wraps up the final Studio Series wave of the year, although they did have one final exclusive for Studio Series, which I know has been anticipated by many collectors. This is the 15th anniversary of Revenge of the Fallen 3-pack, and it will consist of finally a Studio Series Jetfire reissue, Optimus Prime, as well as the RC triplets, which, to be honest, I did think was kind of a weird inclusion, considering that all 3 of them got obliterated when it came down to that final Revenge of the Fallen battle. But Jetfire is a more than welcome reissue. Not only is this by far one of the best looking Studio Series live action movie figures ever, but sadly it has been scalped like nobody's business, so this is a great second way to get this bad boy into the collection. And considering that this is a reissue, I'm hoping that Hasbro maybe corrects the mistakes of the past and finally include a tutorial in how you can merge these 3 into their combined mode. The next reveal they dropped is one that I know many collectors have been super excited for. This is the long-awaited Transformers and Knight Rider crossover, aka Agent Knight. Now, to be fair, I think that officially licensed Trans Am looks wicked, and the biggest takeaway that I got from this is that this guy will finally be packing LEDs as well as sound effects. I cannot remember the last time that we saw this on kind of a proper collector grade item by Hasbro, so that is pretty sweet, and the vehicle mode just looks sharp. A terrific recreation of the iconic vehicle, and then when it does come down to the robot mode, do you know what guys, I actually wouldn't mind seeing this mold repurposed in the future to maybe give us an updated version of a Studio Series Prowl. They could quite simply take this and give us all of the various different repaints into the Datsun brothers so that we would now have a fully updated lineup. And you know what, when it does come down to the molding itself, I do think this is a big improvement in comparison to the Earthrise mold, which is now coming up to be roughly 5 years old. Now the time has come to take a trip through the space bridge, as they also drop some teasers for the very final wave of Legacy United before we head into an entire new trilogy. So to begin with, we are finally going to be seeing a full-blown reissue of Legacy Cosmos. Originally released under the Speedia 500 subline, this bad boy was definitely in need of a much wider release, considering that especially in America, this guy was unfortunately short-packed, which, speaking of, the majority of this final wave is going to consist of reissues as well as repaints. So let's fly through them. Next up, there will be a G2 breakdown. There will be a reissue of Origin Bumblebee to kind of be the perfect companion piece alongside the Origin Wheeljack. There will then be a Legacy Armada Universe Wheeljack, which is going to be a long-awaited repaint of the Shattered Glass Sideswipe. To be honest, I thought the retuning they did when it came down to that mold made it by far one of the best out of the bunch. Then we jump up to Voyager class. They are finally going to be reissuing the War for Cybertron Ramjet, the perfect companion piece to go alongside Dirge, who was released last year. The next Voyager will be a reissue of Legacy Tarn. Then we jump to Leader class. We are finally going to be seeing a repack of the Legacy Galaxy Shuttle, which yet again, I believe when it did come down to America, was incredibly scalped and I don't even believe appeared on store shelves. And then finally, rounding off Legacy United completely, we are going to be getting Overcharge, which is a Legacy Blitzwing redeco with a brand new head sculpt. I know most of these were incredibly difficult to track down, and we are just about to head into a brand new trilogy, so for those who did miss out, this will be a great kind of final farewell to Transformers Legacy. Now guys, prepare for extermination, because in addition to the live stream, they also hosted a panel where they dropped some pretty devastating teasers as to what we can expect going into 2025. So they did pretty much confirm that they will be releasing a brand new Studio Series 86 Devastator, which will comprise, much like the Revenge of the Fallen version, of individual Constructicons, which I think is epic. The Combiner Wars version was great, but that was restricted to, I believe, a $150 budget, and they surprisingly also confirmed the Commander Class Studio Series figure for next year. It is a 2-pack consisting of an 86 movie long haul as well as Hook. Now, considering that 2 of the components are going to be released as a Commander Class, I'm expecting the design and the detail to literally be amazing. So I am definitely super excited to check out this upcoming 86 movie Devastator. And to be honest guys, they did wonders when it came down to the Revenge of the Fallen version. So this will no doubt absolutely obliterate what we did see from the Combiner Wars version. Then finally, Amazon are once again back to their old tricks, as they too also dropped some incredibly early listings of the very first wave of 2025 Studio Series figures, which to be honest confirm what we have expected for a very long time. So to begin with, confirmed is a Deluxe Class Rise of the Beasts Double Punch, which is going to be a straight up repaint of the Rise of the Beast Scorponok. The next release will be a Voyager Class War for Cybertron Skywarp, which, as I'm sure you guys would guess, is going to be a repaint of the Gamer Edition Starscream. And then the final listing that we have right now is easily the biggest and sounds the best out of the bunch, a Leader Class Rise of the Beasts Ape-Link. Gonna be sick to finally see that character receive the Studio Series treatment, and to be honest, I'm really excited to see whether or not they are going to upscale him and how much of the original Optimus Primal are they going to retool in order to maximize into Ape-Link's beast mode. And that right there is a wrap, an absolute whopper when it does come down to a news round. I thought that things couldn't get any bigger when it came down to the Commander Class Optimus Prime, but damn, those Devastator teasers have me hyped for next year, because I thought Studio Series was at its best when we were seeing the release of the Revenge of the Fallen Devastator. I would love to get your guys' thoughts on everything discussed in today's video. What are you guys most excited for? And I am sure there will be a lot. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and until my next video, transform and roll out!